The scissors made a sound like silk tearing in church soft, wrong, violent in its quietness. Maya Thompson would remember that sound for the rest of her life, long after the laughter died and the video stopped trending. 23 years later, she still dreams about that Tuesday afternoon in the Westfield High Library. Not nightmares, exactly. Something stranger in her dreams. She's watching it happen to someone else. Some other 17-year-old girl hunched over her SAT prep book, completely unaware that 3 boys are creeping up behind her with dollar store scissors and an iPhone. In the dream, Maya always tries to warn the girl. She never can. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This isn't really a story about scissors, or viral videos, or even high school. It's about the moment a quiet girl discovered what she was made of. It's about how silence can be its own kind of scream. And it's about Tyler Morrison Golden Boy, football captain. The kid who had everything except the one thing he wanted most. Maya's mother, Diane, worked nights at Grady Hospital in downtown Atlanta, had been pulling 12-hour shifts since Maya's father walked out when she was 7. "Baby, you gotta be stronger than strong," Diane would say, braiding Maya's hair before school. "World's not gonna go easy on you just because I'm working. You understand?" Maya understood. She'd been understanding since 2nd grade when she learned to make her own lunch, iron her own clothes, and never ever ask for help unless the house was literally on fire. And maybe not even then. By senior year, Maya Thompson had perfected the art of being invisible. Not unseen, that's different. Invisible meant being seen just enough that teachers remembered your name for recommendations, but not enough that anyone bothered you in the hallways. She'd calculated it down to a science arrive 7 minutes after first bell, never early. Never late. Sit in the 3rd row, not front, not back. Speak up exactly once per class participation points without seeming eager. It had worked for 3 years, until Tyler Morrison decided he wanted her. The first time he approached her was early September, 2 months before the library. Maya was eating lunch alone in the courtyard, reading Jane Eyre for the 4th time. She felt his shadow before she saw him 6 feet 2 inches of cultivated confidence blocking her sun. "You're Maya, right?" His voice had that particular drawl that money gives Southern boys. Not quite natural, but not quite fake either. She looked up slowly, squinting. "Can I help you? There's a party at my place Saturday. You should come." Maya had heard about Tyler Morrison's parties. Everyone had. Pool house, bigger than most people's homes. Kids throwing up in his mother's prized rose garden. Someone always ending up in the emergency room or the back of a police car by dawn. The kind of parties that colleges pretended not to know about when recruiting their star quarterback. "I work Saturdays," she lied. "Sunday, then. I can pick you up." "I work Sundays, too." Tyler's jaw tightened just slightly. Nobody said no to Tyler Morrison. His father owned 3 car dealerships and had his name on the new athletics center. His older brother, Jackson, was at Harvard Law. The Morrison family didn't hear no very often. "You don't work every night," he said, and it wasn't a question. Maya closed her book carefully, using her receipt as a bookmark. "Actually, I do. Kroger, overnight stocking. But thank you for the invite." She stood up to leave, but Tyler grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not violent, just enough to stop her, just enough to make a point. "One date," he said. "That's all I'm asking." The courtyard wasn't empty. There were maybe 30 kids scattered around, eating lunch, pretending not to watch. Maya could feel their eyes like little laser points on her skin. She looked down at Tyler's hand on her wrist, his championship ring catching the light, his fingernails perfectly clean, then up at his face. "Please, let go," she said quietly. "Not until you say yes." Here's the thing about moments like this, they stretch out like taffy. Maya would think about this moment a lot in the weeks that followed. She'd wonder what would have happened if she'd just said yes. One date, one party, maybe endure some awkward groping in his Mustang. Then he'd get bored and move on to someone else. Wouldn't that have been easier? But Maya had spent a summer with her Aunt Sarah when she was 15. Aunt Sarah, who'd done 3 tours in Afghanistan, who had a scar running from her left ear to her collarbone, who taught Maya Krav Maga in her garage with the kind of intensity that suggested she was preparing her niece for war. "Never let them see you sweat," Aunt Sarah had said, showing Maya how to break a wrist hold. But more important, never let them think you're weak. First time you give in, they own you forever. So Maya didn't give in. She twisted her wrist in a movement so small most people didn't notice, using Tyler's own grip against him. 1 second he was holding her, the next second he wasn't. "I said no, thank you," Maya repeated, and walked away. The whispers started immediately. "Did you see that she turned down Tyler Morrison? Who does she think she is? Tyler's best friend, Brandon Reeves," laughed as Maya disappeared into the main building. "Yo, she played you, bro." "Shut up," Tyler muttered, rubbing his wrist where Maya had twisted it. It didn't hurt, not really, but something else did, something deeper. If this reminds you of someone, maybe yourself at 17, maybe your daughter, maybe that quiet kid you remember from high school who ate alone, then you already know this story doesn't end with a simple no in a sunny courtyard. Tyler Morrison had been told he was special since he could hold a football. His mother kept a scrapbook of every touchdown, every newspaper mention, every recruitment letter. His father, Richard Morrison, had already picked out which wall in his office would hold Tyler's eventual Heisman Trophy. "Morrison men don't lose," Richard liked to say over dinner, usually after 3 bourbons. "Your brother's at Harvard. You'll get your glory on the field. Then join him in law school. Simple as that." Except nothing felt simple to Tyler anymore. His shoulder hurt all the time from a hit he'd taken junior year. He threw up before every game, though he'd gotten good at hiding it, and the recruitment letters weren't as enthusiastic as his father pretended. Good, not great, regional champion, not national prospect. And now this girl, this nobody with her secondhand clothes and her night shift, mother had said no to him, in public, where people could see. The thing about humiliation is that it ferments. What started as wounded pride turned into something else over the next few weeks. Tyler began noticing Maya everywhere. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, how she always had a book, like she was trying to disappear into stories. The fact that she wore the same 3 skirts in rotation, always clean, but clearly old. "She thinks she's better than us," he told Brandon one day after practice. They were sitting in Tyler's truck, watching Maya wait for the bus. "Look at her, acting like she's too good for everyone. Maybe she's just shy, man." "Nah." Tyler took a long pull from his Gatorade. "It's disrespect. You see how she looked at me like I was nothing?" Brandon didn't mention that Tyler had grabbed her wrist, or that she'd asked politely, or that maybe, just maybe, a girl was allowed to say no without it being a personal attack. Brandon's father worked at one of Richard Morrison's dealerships. You didn't contradict a Morrison if you were smart. October arrived with its false promises of fall. In Georgia, October just means the humidity drops from unbearable to slightly less unbearable. Maya had bigger concerns than the weather. The Morrison Foundation scholarship, $10,000 plus a laptop for college, had opened for applications. It was the kind of money that meant the difference between community college and her dream school. She spent every free period in the library working on her essay. The topic was overcoming adversity, which felt like a sick joke considering the source. How do you write about adversity for people who've never experienced it? Do you tell them about your mother's bloody feet from standing all night? About choosing between electricity and groceries? About learning to sew because new clothes weren't an option? Maya wrote about resilience instead. Safe, clean, acceptable resilience. The library was her sanctuary. Mrs. Chen, the librarian, let her stay after hours sometimes, pretending not to notice when Maya dozed off over her textbooks. It was the one place in school where the social hierarchy didn't matter. Books didn't care if you were popular. She was there on that Tuesday, October 29th, lost in her SAT verbal prep. The library was nearly empty, just her, a couple of freshmen working on a project, and old Mr. Willis grading papers in the corner. Maya didn't hear them come in. Tyler knew how to move quietly when he wanted to. It was part of what made him dangerous on the field. Brandon was with him, and Chase Buckley, who played defensive end and had a mean streak that made even other football players nervous. They positioned themselves perfectly. Chase by the main door, Brandon at the desk nearest Maya. Phone out and ready. Tyler approaching from behind. Scissors hidden in his Letterman jacket. Looking back, Maya would wonder how long they'd planned it. The scissors weren't impulsive. Someone had to bring them. Had to think about what kind would work best on fabric. Someone had to scout the library. Note the camera blind spots. Pick the perfect time when Mrs. Chen would be in the back office. The first cut was tentative, almost hesitant. Tyler later claimed he'd only meant to snip a small piece, just enough to scare her. But Maya's skirt was old, the fabric worn thin from too many washes. The scissors went through it like butter. The sound, that soft, terrible sound, made Maya freeze. For a moment, her mind couldn't process what was happening. Why was there a breeze on her legs? Why were those boys laughing? Then she understood. They'd cut her skirt from hem to waistband, a jagged line exposing the full length of her right leg. Her mind registered several things at once: the cold air, the phone recording her, the way Tyler stepped back to admire his work, like an artist with a painting. "Now, you're not too good for anyone," Tyler said. Loud enough for the camera. This is the moment where most people would scream, where they'd jump up, try to cover themselves, maybe cry. It's the reaction Tyler was counting on: tears and hysteria. Something to make her look weak and ridiculous when the video inevitably spread. But Maya Thompson had been preparing for war since she was 15, even if she didn't know it. She set down her pencil with deliberate calm, closed her SAT book, keeping her finger on the page to mark her place. Then she stood up slowly, like she had all the time in the world. The ruined fabric fell away from her leg. Underneath, she wore plain black athletic shorts. She always did, a habit from her aunt who'd taught her to always be ready to fight or run. But the boys didn't know that. They were expecting underwear, humiliation, something worth sharing. Maya looked directly at Brandon's phone, then at each boy in turn. Her face showed nothing, not anger, not fear, Not even surprise. Just a blank calm that was somehow more unsettling than any emotional reaction. Then she did something that would haunt Tyler Morrison for years. She smiled. Not a nice smile. Not a forgiving smile. The kind of smile you might see on a soldier who's been shot, but knows they're wearing body armor. The kind of smile that says, "Is that all you've got?" Without a word, Maya picked up her backpack, tucked her book under her arm, and walked toward the exit. Not rushing, not covering herself, just walking like she was leaving because she chose to. Not because they'd driven her out. "Hey," Tyler called after her. "Aren't you gonna cry or something?" Maya paused at the door. For a moment, just a moment. She considered telling them about Aunt Sarah, about the garage in Decatur, where she'd learned 17 ways to dislocate a shoulder, about how she could have broken Tyler's wrist that day in the courtyard if she'd wanted to. Really broken it, not just twisted free. Instead, she said nothing. Silence. Aunt Sarah had taught her, was its own kind of weapon. The video was online within an hour. "Westfield Nerd Gets Styled," Tyler had captioned it, adding laughing emojis and fire symbols like he was proud of himself. But something was wrong with the footage. Without Maya's tears, without her fear. It just looked like, well, like 3 boys attacking a girl who refused to give them the satisfaction of being a victim. The smile especially, people couldn't stop talking about that smile. "Did you see her face?" whispered Jasmine Chen at her locker the next morning. She was Maya's only real friend, a fellow scholarship kid who understood the rules of survival. She looked like a serial killer. In a good way. Maya was wearing jeans today, her ruined skirt folded neatly in her backpack. She'd sewn it back together the night before. Her mother sleeping through her day off, unaware of what had happened. The seam was crooked but strong. She'd keep that skirt forever, though she'd never wear it again. "Are you okay?" Jasmine asked quietly. "Why wouldn't I be? Maya, come on. Everyone saw the video." "Good," Maya said, and meant it, because here's what Tyler Morrison didn't understand about poverty, about struggle, about growing up with your back against the wall. You learn that dignity isn't something anyone can take from you. They can take your things, your opportunities, even your safety. But dignity? That's yours to keep or give away. And Maya Thompson wasn't giving hers to anybody. By lunch. The video had been shared 300 times, but the comments weren't what Tyler expected. Instead of laughing at Maya, people were asking questions. Why were 3 football players ganging up on one girl? Why did they plan this? Who brings scissors to school? Tyler found himself defending actions that had seemed hilarious 24 hours ago. "It was just continued tomorrow," he kept saying. She needed to learn. Learn what, exactly? That part got harder to explain. Principal Davis called Maya to his office during 5th period. She'd been expecting it. Kenneth Davis was a careful man who'd climbed from teaching to administration by never making waves. He was also the only black administrator in a school that was 40% students of color, which meant he walked a tightrope every single day. "Miss Thompson," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "I've been made aware of an incident." Maya noticed he didn't say which incident or who had made him aware. Careful. "Are you all right?" he continued. "Do you need to speak with the counselor?" "No, sir. The nurse." "No, sir." Principal Davis rubbed his temples. Behind him hung his diplomas, Morehouse, Georgia State, Emory. All that education, and he still had to handle rich white boys with kid gloves. "The video has been removed from school servers," he said finally, and I'll be speaking with the boys involved. But Maya, he paused, choosing his words. Sometimes it's better to let these things blow over. Making a formal complaint could complicate your senior year. Maya understood perfectly. The Morrison family donated $50,000 last year for new football equipment. Her mother made $36,000 keeping people alive at night. Simple math. I didn't come here to file a complaint, Maya said. Oh. Principal Davis looked relieved and disappointed at the same time. Then why? You called me here, sir. I assumed you needed to document that you'd spoken with the victim, for liability reasons. The principal's face went through several expressions before settling on resignation. You're planning to apply to the Morrison Scholarship, aren't you? Yes, sir. That's brave. Maya stood up. Will that be all? After she left, Principal Davis sat alone in his office for a long time. He thought about his own senior year, 30 years ago, being one of 12 black kids in a school of 2,000. The things he'd ignored, the dignity he'd swallowed, the compromises that had gotten him to this desk, in this office, making these same calculations for a new generation. Then he picked up his phone and made a call he probably shouldn't have made. Sarah, it's Kenneth. Ken Davis. Yeah, from Decatur. Listen, about your niece. Sarah Mitchell got the call at her auto shop in Decatur. Grease under her fingernails and a transmission torn apart on the lift. She listened to Ken Davis for exactly 90 seconds before cutting him off. I'll handle it, she said, and hung up. Here's what you need to understand about Sarah Mitchell: 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 Purple Hearts, and 1 very specific promise made to her sister 15 years ago. If anything happens to me, Diane had said, holding baby Maya, you'll teach her to be strong. Sarah had kept that promise in her own way, not with hugs or fairy tales, but with Brazilian jiu-jitsu in her garage and lessons about how the world really worked. She'd seen too many women come home in boxes because they'd hesitated when they should have acted. Now her niece, her quiet, brilliant niece, who could dislocate a shoulder in 3 moves, was being hunted by some rich boy who couldn't handle rejection. Sarah had seen this movie before. It never ended well unless someone changed the script. She made 3 phone calls. The first was to Diane at the hospital. The second was to an old army buddy who worked in electronic security. The third was to Maya herself. Don't do anything stupid, she told her niece. But if they corner you, remember what I taught you. Center mass. Maximum damage. Minimum movement. I'm fine, Aunt Sarah. No, baby, you're not fine. You're just ready. There's a difference. Maya hung up, feeling something shift in her chest. For the first time since the library, she let herself feel the anger. Not hot anger that makes you sloppy. The cold kind that Aunt Sarah had taught her to cultivate. The kind that turns fear into fuel. That night, she filled out her Morrison Scholarship application, where it asked about overcoming adversity. She wrote the truth this time. Every word of it. Tyler Morrison. Meanwhile, was discovering that viral videos have their own momentum. By Wednesday morning, the video had jumped from Instagram to Twitter to TikTok, each platform adding its own layer of commentary. Someone had slowed it down, added ominous music, and pointed out things Tyler hadn't noticed in the moment: how Maya's hands never shook, how she'd smiled directly at the camera like she was looking through it to some future audience. Bro, you need to see this. Brandon showed him his phone in the locker room before practice. Someone had found Maya's mother's GoFundMe from 2 years ago, when she'd needed help with medical bills after a car accident. They'd found photos of Maya working at Kroger, studying in the break room. They'd built a narrative, rich boys terrorizing a girl who was just trying to survive. It wasn't like that, Tyler insisted. But even he could hear how weak it sounded. Coach Williams walked in then, and the locker room went silent. Marcus Williams had played defensive end for Georgia Tech back in the day, had a shot at the NFL before a knee injury ended his dreams. He'd been coaching for 20 years, and he'd seen every kind of player, the naturals, the grinders, the head cases, and the bullies. "Morrison," he said quietly. "My office, now." Tyler followed, trying to read the coach's face. Williams closed the door and turned on him. "You know what your problem is, son." "Coach, Your problem is, you think this," Williams gestured around his office, "at the trophies and team photos, makes you untouchable. But I've got news for you. I've cut all state players for less than what you did. It was just a crime. That's what it was. Assault, harassment, conspiracy. Since you planned it. You think college recruiters want that. You think they want to explain to alumni why they gave a scholarship to the kid who attacks girls in libraries." Tyler felt his future cracking like ice under his feet. Your dad already called. 3 times. Williams sat down heavily. "But this isn't about money anymore. This is about what kind of program I run. And I don't run a program for cowards who gang up on girls." "She disrespected me." The words hung in the air like a confession. Coach Williams studied Tyler for a long moment, and Tyler saw something in his eyes that hurt worse than anger disappointment. "Son, if your respect is so fragile that a girl saying no can break it, then you never had any to begin with." Williams let that sink in before continuing. "You're suspended from the team pending investigation. Clean out your locker." The walk from the coach's office to the locker room was the longest of Tyler's life. His teammates watched him pack his gear in silence. Football had been his identity since he was 7 years old. Without it, who was he? His father was waiting in the parking lot, sitting in his Mercedes with the engine running. Tyler climbed in, expecting a tirade. Instead, Richard Morrison drove in silence for 10 minutes before speaking. "Your brother called from Harvard. Says the video is making rounds up there, too." Tyler's stomach dropped. Jackson, the perfect son, the one who'd never disappointed anyone. "I've hired a PR firm." His father continued, "They'll try to spin this, say it was a misunderstanding, maybe blame it on academic stress. We'll make a donation to some women's charity, get you into counseling." "Dad, I need to tell you something." Richard's hands tightened on the wheel. "What now?" "I applied for the Morrison Scholarship, too. I thought if I won it, you'd see I was smart like Jackson." For the first time in Tyler's memory, his father looked genuinely surprised. "You applied for your own family's scholarship." "I wanted to prove I could earn something, not just have it given to me." Richard pulled into their driveway 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a pool house where Tyler had thrown all those parties trying to feel important. It all looked different now, like a museum of someone else's life. "Well," his father said finally, "I guess we'll see if you can." Thursday morning arrived with the kind of drama Westfield High lived for. The Morrison Scholarship finalists would be announced at the morning assembly. 5 finalists, 1 winner, $10,000 plus a laptop that could change everything. Maya sat in the back of the auditorium between Jasmine and, surprisingly, 3 girls from the volleyball team who'd started eating lunch with her since the video. Turned out being attacked by Tyler Morrison was better than any popularity boost. "You know he applied to, right?" Jasmine whispered. "Tyler, for his own family's scholarship." Maya had heard. The irony wasn't lost on her, the prince competing for his own crown against the peasant he'd tried to humiliate. Principal Davis took the stage, papers in hand. He looked tired, older than his 52 years. The week had been hard on everyone, but especially on a man trying to balance justice with job security. "Before we announce the finalists," he began, "I want to remind everyone that the Morrison Scholarship rewards not just academic excellence, but character, resilience, and leadership in the face of adversity." Someone in the crowd snorted. Everyone knew what adversity meant in this context. "Our finalists are—" Davis paused, scanning the crowd. "Jennifer Wu, Rohan Patel, Maya Thompson." The auditorium erupted. Applause, gasps, and whispers blended into a roar. Maya kept her eyes straight ahead, but she could feel hundreds of heads turning to look at her. Marcus Green and Tyler Morrison. The noise doubled. Tyler, sitting with the remains of his friend group near the front, turned around to find Maya. Their eyes met across the crowd. She didn't smile this time. She didn't need to. "Interviews will be conducted tomorrow." Principal Davis continued over the noise. "The winner will be announced at next week's assembly." As students filed out, Maya felt her phone buzz. Unknown number, but she recognized the area code. Aunt Sarah's shop. Parking lot, after school. They're planning something. Maya deleted the text and went to her next class. She'd been waiting for this. Really, Tyler had too much pride to let things end with a suspension and public humiliation. There would be a final confrontation. There always was. She spent the rest of the day in a strange state of calm. Teachers droned on about derivatives and the Treaty of Versailles, while Maya mentally reviewed everything Aunt Sarah had taught her. Distance management, weak points, how to make it look like self-defense even when you strike first. Jasmine noticed her distraction at lunch. "You okay? You seem different today." "Just thinking about tomorrow's interview." "Maya," Jasmine lowered her voice, "I heard Brandon and Chase talking in calc. They're saying Tyler wants to settle things with you." "I know. And you're still staying after school. That's crazy." Maya looked at her friend, sweet, sheltered Jasmine, who'd never had to fight for anything harder than a good GPA. How could she explain that running would only make things worse? That bullies like Tyler didn't stop until someone made them, "I'll be fine," Maya said. "Trust me." The last bell rang at 3:15. Maya took her time gathering her things, letting the halls empty out. She stopped by her locker, pulled out the sewn-up skirt, and put it in her backpack. Evidence, maybe, or just a reminder of how this all started. The parking lot was nearly empty when she walked out. October sun slanting low, painting everything gold and dangerous. Tyler's Mustang was parked near the fence, him leaning against it with studied casualness. Brandon and Chase flanked him, trying to look tough. But there was another car there too, one that made Maya's heart race. A beaten-up Crown Vic with government plates and tinted windows. She knew that car. "Took you long enough," Tyler called out as she approached. "Thought maybe you'd chickened out." Maya stopped about 10 feet away, automatically checking angles and exits like Aunt Sarah had taught her. "What do you want?" "Tyler, you know what I want. You're going to withdraw from the scholarship competition." "No. See? That's your problem." Tyler pushed off from his car, walking closer. "You still think you have a choice. You cost me my season, my future, everything I worked for. You did that yourself. No. The mask finally slipped, showing the desperate boy underneath. You did this, with your holier-than-thou attitude and your smug face, acting like you're better than everyone. I never said I was better than anyone. You didn't have to say it. Tyler was close now, close enough that Maya could smell his cologne, see the dark circles under his eyes. It's the way you look at people, like we're all beneath you. Maya almost felt sorry for him then. Almost. Because she recognized that look she'd seen it in the mirror on bad days. The weight of expectations you never asked for. The fear that you're not enough. The desperate need to prove something to someone who's not really watching. But empathy didn't mean acceptance, and understanding didn't mean forgiveness. I'm not withdrawing, she said simply. Tyler's face twisted. Chase, Brandon, hold her. This was the moment. As the two boys moved forward, Maya's body shifted into the stance Aunt Sarah had drilled into her, weight balanced, hands loose, mind clear. She thought about her mother, working another double shift, about Principal Davis, trying to do right within a broken system, about every quiet kid who'd ever been cornered by someone bigger and meaner. But before anyone could touch anyone, a car door opened. That's enough. Richard Morrison stepped out of the Crown Vic, phone in hand. He looked older than Maya remembered from school events, grayer, tired in a bone-deep way that money couldn't fix. Dad, Tyler's voice cracked. What are you— I've been here the whole time, Richard said. He held up his phone, showing a live stream. So have about 10,000 other people, thanks to Miss Chen there. Everyone turned to see Jasmine standing by the school entrance. Her phone held high and steady. She gave a little wave with her free hand. Hi, Mr. Morrison. I'm getting really good engagement on this. Lots of shares. Tyler looked between his father, Maya, and the camera, understanding dawning horribly. You set me up. No, Maya said. You set yourself up. We just made sure everyone could see it. Richard Morrison walked toward his son, each step heavy with disappointment. Do you know what you've cost me? Not money, I have money, but respect, reputation. My own business partners are asking if I raised a predator. I'm not. You were just about to assault a young woman in a parking lot with your friends, again. Richard looked at Chase and Brandon. You two, leave, now. And if I ever see you near Miss Thompson again, I'll personally ensure you never set foot in a college anywhere. The boys fled, literally ran to their cars and peeled out, leaving Tyler alone with his father and the girl he'd tried to break. Tyler, Richard said quietly, get in the car. We're going home. You're going to pack your things. Pack? Why would I? Military school, South Carolina. They specialize in boys who've lost their way. Richard's voice was flat, final. Maybe they can teach you what I clearly couldn't. Tyler looked at Maya one last time. She expected to see hate, but there was something else there. Recognition. Maybe. The understanding that comes when you finally see yourself clearly and don't like what's looking back. He got in the car without another word. Richard Morrison turned to Maya before leaving. I owe you an apology. Several, probably. What my son did was inexcusable. Yes, it was. I'll be withdrawing his scholarship application, of course, and I want you to know whatever the committee decides, it won't be influenced by this. You'll win or lose on your own merits. Maya nodded. That's all I wanted. The Crown Vic drove away, taking Tyler Morrison out of Westfield High forever. Jasmine ran over, still filming. Did you see their faces? This is already at 50,000 views. But Maya wasn't listening. She was thinking about silence and action, about the space between being a victim and being a survivor, about her mother's bloody feet, and Aunt Sarah's scarred hands and Principal Davis's tired eyes. The scholarship interview the next day was almost anticlimactic. Maya sat before the committee, 3 Morrison Foundation board members, and 2 school administrators, and told them the truth about working at Kroger to help her mother pay rent, about studying in break rooms and hospital waiting areas, about learning that dignity wasn't something anyone could give you or take away. "Why do you want this scholarship?" they asked. "Because I earned it," Maya said simply, "because I've been earning it since I was 7 years old." They announced her win at the next week's assembly, $10,000 and a laptop. But more than that, proof that sometimes the world bends toward justice, even if you have to help bend it yourself. Maya Thompson graduated valedictorian that spring. She went to Yale on a full scholarship, studied law, and now works for the Southern Poverty Law Center, taking on cases other lawyers won't touch. She still has that sewn-up skirt in her closet, a reminder of the day she refused to be broken. Tyler Morrison graduated from military school and went to a small college in Virginia. Last anyone heard, he was working as an EMT, saving lives one call at a time. Maybe that's its own kind of redemption. Maybe everyone deserves a second chance to become who they're supposed to be. But this story isn't really about Tyler or scholarships or even justice. It's about that moment in the library when a girl chose to smile instead of cry. It's about understanding that bullies fear strength, but they fear dignity even more. It's about knowing when to be silent and when to act, and recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to be what they want you to be, a victim. A statistic. A cautionary tale. Maya Thompson was none of those things. She was, and is, unbreakable. Not because she was born that way, but because she chose to be, every single day. And that choice? That's the real scholarship. The one nobody can take away. Aunt Sarah was right about silence being its own kind of weapon, but she was even more right about something else. Something she told Maya the day after the parking lot confrontation. "You know what's stronger than knowing how to fight? Knowing how to make the fight unnecessary. You didn't beat that boy with your fists, baby. You beat him by being exactly who you are, out loud and in public. That's the kind of victory that lasts." It's been 23 years since the scissors made that sound in the library. Maya Thompson has argued cases before the Supreme Court, written legislation that protects students from harassment, and raised 2 daughters who know their worth from day one. But sometimes, late at night, when she's preparing for another impossible case, she still hears that sound silk tearing in church, soft and wrong and violent. And she smiles that same smile from the library. The one that says, "Is that all you've got?" Because it always is. And she's always ready for more. The last time Maya saw Tyler Morrison was at a conference on restorative justice in Atlanta, 15 years after high school. He was speaking on a panel about redemption and second chances. Their eyes met across the room. No anger, no fear, just acknowledgement of a shared history that had shaped them both. After his talk, he approached her. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for teaching me that respect isn't something you take. It's something you earn." Maya nodded. Some stories don't end with forgiveness or friendship. Sometimes they end with understanding. And sometimes, that's enough. In the end, we all choose who we become in our moments of testing. Maya Thompson chose strength. Tyler Morrison, eventually, chose growth. And somewhere in Westfield, Georgia, another quiet girl is learning that her silence is not weakness, but power waiting to be claimed.